want to thank you for being here. I'm enjoying it. But I have a question that, well, we've been hearing in the news that you had taken money from the liberal Democratic supporter George Soros. I'd like to know if this is true and what you used it for and why.
Yeah. So the short answer to that is, like many things that are showing up in the media as I've risen in the polls, that is flat out false. Like, not an iota of truth to it. Now, I will tell you where they're getting it from. So I've never taken a dime or dollar from George Soros, who I have been one of the most vocal critics of. I think he's been a toxic force on our politics, especially from the last 10 years, where he's been funding these disastrous, soft-on-crime prosecutors that are in part responsible for the wave of crimes infesting our cities. But what they're using, and I'm new to politics, so I'm learning how these games are played. You know, when people get threatened, they make up stuff about you. There was a generic scholarship that at the age of 24 I won that was funded not by George Soros, but by another guy who had the last name Soros. It was a family member of Soros who had independent wealth and as an entrepreneur in this country who's dead also. And it's a generic scholarship that hundreds of kids win to go to graduate school, that pay for part of graduate school. I won that at the age of 24 in 2010. I would have had to be a true fool to turn down that scholarship at the age of 24. But the fact of the matter is, if you run for U.S. president, people are going to take that and rake you through the mud over it. I mean, the reality is, and I don't hold this against the other guys either, Donald Trump took a $160 million loan from George Soros shortly before he ran in 2016. Is that disqualifying for him? No, he's a businessman. He does what he does when he's smart. Does that mean George Soros owns him? No. And Ron DeSantis has been criticized because George Soros' investment partners hosted a fundraiser for him in June, and George Soros praised him online. Ron DeSantis doesn't control that either. So I'm not one of these guys that's going to do the virtue signaling thing and pick at the others. But as it relates to my view on this campaign, at first it was kind of irritating when people run these smears, but the more I think about it, we should be skeptical, actually. And we've been taught to be skeptical if we learned something over the last 20 years in this country. But we do have a government that systematically has lied to us. And we've lied about, lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, lied about the need for bailouts in the 2008 financial crisis, lied about the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, lied about now the Hunter Biden laptop story, lied about that Nashville shooter manifesto, the transgender shooter who shot 6 people in a Christian school. We still haven't seen the manifesto released. I think lied now about how our money is being spent in Ukraine, lied about the origin of the COVID pandemic, lied about what we knew about vaccine mandates. And so when you have a government and an establishment that has systematically lied, I actually now have gotten to a place where I embrace it. I get it. Most people in this country hadn't heard of me 6 months ago. People said, you started at 0% in March. I said, no, I didn't start at 0%. I started at 0.0% in March. And now I'm, at second in many of these national polls, and I'm running to be the next commander-in-chief of this country. And that is a serious position that deserves serious scrutiny for anybody who puts themselves in that position. And at this point, seeing it that way, I embrace it. And I think that is part of the process of having conviction in selecting the next president. But I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm grateful for those who actually ask questions honestly. Thank you for that. Thank you. Please.